Welcome to The Source with your host, Dr. C.T. Curry, and co-host Coby Owens. News all across the nation. The Source. Stay in the loop in the city of Wilmington, Delaware. Work together for change in the community. A call to action to find the resources. The Source, the latest in news.
Good evening. This is Dr. Curry.
This is Coby Owens.
And welcome to The Source. Before we get started, I just want to say I apologize that I'm wearing a red shirt today. Coby came in the show today and he immediately said, oh, now that the Republicans have won, you're wearing red. It has nothing at all to do with my position as a Democrat. I am a Democrat and I don't jump off ship when things go wrong. We just try to make it right. So do apologize. You got on your blue. You still holding true. I'm in my red and trust me, I am nowhere near a Republican. However, we do have so much going on, Coby, and while we opened up with humor, it's 6 shootings since we last came together, and I'm told there's more.
Yeah, it's even more than that. This last week and a half has been very hard for the city of Wilmington. Multiple shootings happening on Halloween, a day in which you have a lot of kids who are out trick-or-treating. It's supposed to be fun, getting candy, getting sweets and everything, and multiple shootings happened. But yeah, what I'm concerned with is the fact that we haven't really seen any true reporting on it.
Okay. Yeah. No, because when you said about on Halloween by itself, that's the 6 that I'm talking about. Yes. You're saying there's more than that.
So actually, 6 people were shot on that day.
Yeah.
There's been 8 individual shootings throughout the city. But yeah, on that day, you had 4 people over Riverside, over East 28th Street, actually, who were shot. One young man who was 22 years old, who was actually pronounced dead. Yeah. And 2 other men, aged 20 and 21, and a young woman, 34 years old, was also shot in that shooting. And then later in the day, there was actually 2 more shootings. So another one was a double shooting in which 2 people were left injured. That was around 5 o'clock. That was prime time with kids. You know, some parents are trying to get it out the way a little earlier now, little light still left, and go over there. That was a 19-year-old and a 20-year-old shot on the 2900 block of Washington Street in the 9th Ward neighborhood. Again, both were taken in stable condition. Then on Market Street, there was another shooting not long after that, maybe about an hour and a half after that shooting on Market Street around 23rd, 24th Street. While kids were doing a trunk and treat across the street, shots rung out. No one was hit, no one was injured, but it created a lot of chaos in the city, especially for the kids who were literally right across the street in a parking lot doing a trunk or treat, which is you open up the back of your car and you give out candy at the back of your car instead of going house to house.
Yeah, we do that because we don't really celebrate what you call it, Halloween, but we will do a trunk or treat where the kids have opportunity to indulge in the fun. Go ahead, I'm so sorry.
So again, that day was very violent. And then there was another incident. No one was injured, again, over Riverside, around East 22nd Street-ish. While later in the day, it was around 7 o'clock when it happened. And I actually heard about it while I was in the middle of, I was in character at our haunted house. And one of the parents was going down the stairs telling another parent about it, and I overheard it. So then I talked to someone who had a little more information, one of the officers, who was telling me a little bit. No one was hurt in that incident, but again, shots rung out yet again. So
bullets
again,
don't have names on them.
They don't.
When they start shooting, they hit whatever is in its target.
It is so bad right now. It's traumatizing to the community, to the residents. I talked to a resident in my district where one of the shootings happened who didn't see the shooting, but could hear the screaming after of one of the young men who was shot. And all she talked about was coming outside and trying to figure out what was going on, and then seeing the young man on the ground coughing up blood and screaming for help. It is so sad.
Now, and I just want to jump in just for a second, because one of the things Republicans do cry is that our neighborhoods, because of the quote unquote liberals who don't believe that police should police, and I am not buying that. Okay, that it's the liberals' fault and the police don't want to police, because we believe if you get a true system in place, you don't have to brutalize the community and beat them up and put them in fear in order to keep the violence down. But Coby, today we can officially say welcome to the city council, and you are now
I don't get sworn in until January.
It doesn't matter. You elected by the people, so even if they don't have one, you still Councilman Coby Owens now. But what is going on to the place where shooting is just out of? When you were going through this, I'm thinking I was stressed out because of all that I put in our notes for today. Coby, they have to live in these communities. What is going on?
Yeah, so one, going to your first point about conservatives saying liberals don't want police to police. If you look at all the major cities throughout America that are controlled by Democrats and all the major cities that are controlled by Republicans, per capita and per officer, liberal cities actually pay more money into their police departments for resources and all other stuff, salaries, everything, than conservatives. The issue is usually more liberal cities or more minority-based cities, especially like Wilmington, Delaware. We actually have a higher per capita police officers than Philadelphia, New York, Baltimore, D.C., Boston, right? All major cities along the East Coast. Just having more officers, just giving them more money, that does not fix anything. You have to truly look at what is causing the violence, which usually are systemic issues: lack of housing, lack of access to quality jobs. We know this. It's been studied. It's being studied even more. But at the end of the day, no, high degree person is going to be able to write enough papers that are actually going to stop the gun violence until we start implementing what is being put on paper. At the end of the day, we got to stop talking about it. We actually have to start taking steps to fixing the issues. In Wilmington right now, I think we saw under a microscope, we saw that last week after they said, after the first two shootings, we got things. And then all these other shootings happen throughout the day. It is very sad that this keeps happening in Wilmington, and we just saw a report from the police, this is the lowest shooting year ever, and then literally a week, not even a full week later, like 4 days later,
right,
we see what happened on Halloween, and then there's been other shootings.
And we're going to get to those.
Too.
We're going to get to those, but it's just that it's heartbreaking.
Yes.
For those who may not live in these communities, they can't feel it.
Correct.
But you just described a shooting a few minutes ago where a person was on the ground gasping and asking for help. That's somebody's child.
Yeah.
That's somebody's brother, somebody's a friend or whatever. And to allow life to be just snatched from them, when most of the times we might even know who the perpetrators are. Now, I'm not going to go and turn on the streets and say that this person you should be telling, because they need protection. A part of policing has to be trust.
Yes.
And that's why when we talk a lot about what is going on and how come we're having this issue, city council got to be talking to the mayor got to be talking to city council and his police department. There has to be a strategic plan put together with the liberals and the conservatives in order to come together and save our city. We are not sure who Governor Carney is going to put as his chief of staff, but one of the things I'm already noticing and I'm happy about, I'm not going to get into any details, is that I believe he hears that. Sure, that the downtown has to be developed and continue to be developed, but I just pray that as we move forward, whoever is going to sit in the role of directing the traffic, I know he will be the mayor, but that seat really carries some weight. They really have a heart for the for the first district, second district, third district, fourth district, the districts that are in the heart of the city where the minorities are really living at. Because Coby, this is a crisis.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I don't want to seem like we're going through trauma with what happened on the national level with the election, but this is a crisis for a person to have to live in this. My seniors, children, you keep saying they could have been out trick-or-treating, and some of them were. They were doing other things, and these things are happening. And for us to say, well, we can't stop the violence, you have to come together and come up with a plan. When we did our first show, you were here, Jay Street was here, and that was the argument. We need a plan. There has to be a plan of how we're going to get there. And the Bible even says that without a vision, people die. So at some point, when will we get a plan? And I'm going to really talk very, very, very consistently with the new mayor to say we just need a plan and let people talk this thing through. But we don't have all day to talk through it. Right. We got to get this in action because people know who's doing all the shooting. But they're not going to give up anybody just to find out that the person is back on the street. So that means we got to also talk with the DOJ. It's so many people got to be talked to so that we can put a curve on this, because stopping and frisking, I'm not asking for that.
Right.
I'm not asking for that. And I want nobody, well, that's what we should do. We should strong arm them, because the people who will benefit from the stop and frisk is the minorities, because they're going to be the only ones stopped and frisked and things of that nature. I'm sorry to keep talking.
And I want to raise, right, these points, right, and these statistics. So, in the last 7 days, 2 people have been murdered through gun violence.
Here in the city?
Here in the city.
Go ahead.
Yep. A year ago, it was 0. Shooting incidents are up. We already talked about them. A year ago, it was 1. Shooting victims total is 10. A year ago, it was 1.
Now, you're talking about in a week or
in the week, right?
Wow.
So in this same week.
That's scary.
Period. Same 7-day window.
And that's why you got to say that to the people. And matter of fact, sometimes we get to talk to each other. We forget we have people watching us. I'm thinking you're talking about for the year.
No.
And you're talking about in 1 week, you're comparing last year to this year, just for the weeks.
But let me compare year to date, right? So could
you just go back and do that one more time? Because for the people who really didn't hear that about the week first, and then you can go to the year. So
murders, it was 2 this past week. At that same period, last year was 0. Incidents, we talked about those. Last year was 1. And then shooting victims in total, it was 1 last year and 10 so far.
Wow.
Well, that happened last week. But I really want to break down this one point. Year to date, there in 2023, there was 13 murders at this point last year. It's 21 this year. Shooting incidents is down, right? It was 83 last year, 73 this year. Shooting victims was 99 last year. It's 91 right now. But I do want to raise another point to that. So that 91 shooting victims, right, is up 30% from 6 years ago. That 73 shooting incidents is up 12% from 6 years ago. What was 6 years ago? The most historic year, right? Under last term, most historic year in shooting violence here in the city of Wilmington. Why do I bring that up? Because in 2015, the News Journal and people who were thinking about running for office and people who was going to be working with the person who ended up running for office put out narratives that we were living in Murdertown, USA.
That's right, yeah.
And undermined a black mayor.
Yeah, and I heard the Republican candidate for governor during the debate here at Zion Fair said, you know, we're across the country, we are noted as Murdertown, US. And I hollered out, under certain mayors, they may have had that, but they should be crying that out now.
Yeah. I will say overall, when it comes to dealing with shootings and gun violence in the city of Wilmington, Mike Pizicki gets an F. He was a failure when it came to that.
F minus.
The only thing he did good was develop. But even with that development, he did not properly plan for how city services were still going to meet the demands of new people coming into the city. When you develop like that, right, and you want to bring new people in, you have to make sure you have the resources and the workforce to do that, right? And one of the biggest things, not just police, but one of the biggest things is fire department. Right now, our fire department is hurting. You have retirements, you have injuries, you have people who are working way too much. Pizicki changed their time schedule, which makes them work even more with less manpower. You've brought in an additional 1,600 units.
Oh, wow. I didn't think about
right?
that.
1,600 units of people. That's more people they have to cover. That's more in small incidents, whether it's fires or anything. That's them running around even more.
Yeah.
And you cut their schedules back so they have one less day of rest. You took away a platoon. He's not for the people, and I'm glad that he will be gone on January 7th.
But what we cannot do, Coby, we cannot say he's gone. We have to make sure that when they write his legacy as the mayor for the city of Wilmington, and I want to make myself very clear, I guess this is my camera here, when they write his legacy, sure, he was malicious to many Black African-American leaders, some he had in his pocket, and that's fine. But when his legacy is written, we have to ensure that they know, yes, he did very good with development in the well economically stable communities. But even development in low income communities, he gets an F. When it comes down to the violence, there is no grade we can really give him. And we cannot allow his history, his legacy to be written unless it is very clear. He may have brought some economic stuff to the city by doing this development by these rich people who he dealt with when he was over there at the riverfront. But this city has gone down because of the level of violence. Our people are hurting, and yes, you can always, and I can hear some people saying in my ear, because I know certain African Americans, well, it's black on black crime. You laid out the case earlier when you said where there is no jobs, where there's no true equity, you're going to find violence. So it's the mayor's job to find the economics so that we can make sure our city is made whole, not just in a section of the city.
Right.
So I am very concerned. And while you're right, I am glad also as a pastor in this city. I am glad also as a spokesman in this city, a person who has this show, to say, I'm glad his time is up. However, we cannot let him off the record where people will say he was a great mayor because he brought this to the city. No. When it came down to the violence, he's below an F. When it comes down to bringing economic stability to the communities, he's below an F. And I don't care how many African Americans he have in his cabinet. I don't care how many gay people he have in his group trying to act like he represented all these communities. The truth of the matter is he failed at it. And people don't like it. That's their issue, because I had the opportunity to have to deal with him directly just to continue to confront some of the things that I saw. And even some of the people that he had around him made sure that he got his vengeance list and did not try to help anybody. And that's just sad. I'm sorry to even jump there, but that's not how we were supposed to do this segment. But sometimes it just gets
Listen, I know. I definitely agree with you on that. And again, taking it back to the violence in the city right now, I really hope that in this new session, and I do have hope for the new mayor and his team, to sit down with the police chief, to sit down with the public safety committee, and actually put a plan together very similar to the Hope plan that Jay and them came up with. We have more money floating around now than we did back then when they had that. So if it's which was the reason why it was not truly implemented to the level it should have been. We need to fully fund that plan. And we need to make sure that it's updated to today's time and really start working.
I forgot all about that plan. And that's what, thank you. For you to be a young brother, you really have a lot in that big head of yours. And that you do remember some things. And now that you said that, it came right back to me. They did work on a very, very strong plan, but it was the economics is why they really couldn't. And the last thing we need to do in this segment is we do need to talk about those other shootings. We got stuck on the 31st, on the one day, the 8 in the one day, or the 6, 8, whatever it was in the one day. But then there was There was some other shootings. I think on Saturday of last week there was some shootings as well. What do you know about those?
Yeah. So on Saturday, 2 people were shot and hospitalized. 1 in critical condition, 1 in stable condition. They found 1 victim in the 200 block of North Clayton Street a little after 7 p.m. and the second victim showed up to the hospital around the same time. 1 man was aged 28, and that's the one who's in critical condition, and the other one is 27. There's no further information being released, but they're asking the public, if you know anything about this shooting, call Detective Thomas Rittenhouse at 302-576-3620.
Okay. Well, we certainly going to continue to have our prayers out to them. And I do believe that if we can hold out through this last part of the night season, help is on the way. And with the new city council we still have some residue of those who are persuaded by the dollar. But for the most part, I believe we can get something done. So I hope Trippy will y'all will vote on the. I won't say his name first, but I hope y'all will vote on giving the president back his power to his office, and then from that he used that in order to solve some of these ills and not play the games that have been played or to just fall deeper into this hole. Our people are thirsty for change. Our people are hungry for better, and we can provide that through the leadership that we have now. And I have full confidence in those who have just been elected and those who are returning, who we've certainly tried to endorse, because I just felt that we would have a better day. Coby, I don't really, I want to just give some updates real quick, and but I want us to give a couple updates because oftentimes we don't share some of the updates on some of the shootings that did occur in the city, and we have a few minutes left in our segment. I want to talk about the 2 men who was arrested for a Wilmington shooting that resulted in the death of a woman, happened back in and I believe it was in September when that one occurred. What do you know about that?
Yeah, so that's the one that left a 57-year-old woman that we had talked about it here on the show. But again, yes, there has been a man charged in that shooting. We will see what happens at trial. But again, that is good police work, right? And we do want to give credit where credit is due when they do solve cold cases and stuff like that. But again, we need to see this at a higher rate.
Absolutely. There's another update. Man charged with murder for September fatal shooting in Wilmington. We did report on that on the 22nd, on the 700 block of East 22nd Street.
Yeah, so that was a 19-year-old who shot another 19-year-old, and he has been identified and was actually picked up on Friday without incident. So again, very happy to see that they are moving. He's currently being held at Gander Hill right now on a $190,000 bond. Cash only bail.
Good. And the last one that I have as an update was the 2 people shot in Wilmington in October the 2nd, I think it was. Somewhere in there.
Again, that was a very early morning shooting. 2 people were shot. One was transferred to the hospital in stable condition. That was a 21-year-old, and the other 20-year-old is allegedly they believe was a part of it, and the suspect that they were looking for was also shot and now in custody as well, is being held on the following offenses: assault for possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony.
Yeah. Well, and for those of you who are watching us, our goal is to be fair. We're not saying, hey, I remember years ago when I was a student at Lincoln University, Cheney University had not won a football game in like 10 years. The coach finally won one, and he went to the office of the president and said, I won one, I need a raise. And the president said, you're fired. The point is, I said that to say, we don't want to take away from the fact that they did do some good policing work, and we got some people arrested for some of these crimes, but we don't want to stop and say, okay, I've done a great job. See, we got 3 arrests. There's a whole lot of still unsolved murders as well as shooting victims that we really need to take care of. So I'm hoping that we will be able to do even better under the Carney administration. Is there anything else you want to share, Coby, regarding that area before we go for a commercial break?
That's all I have right now.
That's all you got? All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back.
Christopher Holton. I'm very active. It was a Saturday morning. Normally I go for my normal walk.
With no warning, Chris suffered a near-fatal heart attack. But thankfully, Brian Buckley, a bystander, saw him collapse and rushed to help.
He did this big gasp for air and then just stopped. It's like I went into autopilot. It's like all that training I did back in the day around CPR just magically came out of nowhere.
Because of the CPR training that Brian received, Chris did make it and didn't die on the trail that day. CPR training provided by the American Heart Association.
Looking at your hands, these two hands could save a life.
Being a father, you want to be around. You want to be around for your kids.
Heart disease is America's #1 killer. To learn more about how the American Heart Association helps save lives, go to helpheart.org.
Join us live for our weekly worship. Every Sunday at 9 a.m. on Facebook and YouTube.
Well, Pastor, I'm doing the best I can, but I still gotta have a little Chardonnay, and I still gotta have a little this, and I gotta still sneak around. The devil is a liar. That's an excuse.
Wilmington's most exciting church.
One more time before you wake up in the wild. In your eyes, I see a flower slowly dying.
Together with the Nature Conservancy, you have the power to make a difference. For unspoiled nature, for beautiful wildlife, and for people everywhere. Together, we can find a way to ensure that all life on Earth can thrive.
Oh, in the wild, you're gonna make it. The moonlight is here to take you.
Our natural world needs us now. Every day, we lose more lands, waters, and the wild species that depend on them. To learn more, visit nature.org today.
Not today.
I'm here. You can tell me anything.
I see you. We're in this together.
Breakthroughs are happening.
Treatments are evolving.
The stats can change.
Society can change.
We can all say, not today.
Not today.
Not today.
Not today. Not today.
If we're together, bound to be better. When we're together, together.
This is Pastor Curry, pastor of the He's Iron Fair Baptist Church, Wilmington's most exciting church, the church that love ya and anything you can do about it. What we're going to do today is we're going to have a real good conversation. I'm excited. Come on! Every Sunday at 11 a.m. Why don't you call somebody real quickly? Tell them Coffee with Curry is on. And let's get after it. And we're back. Well, Well, Coby, this is used to be my favorite part of the show, but I know today it ain't gonna be too favorite. So let me just hear what's going on with the Coby Corner today.
So as many people probably know already, we elected a 34-time felon, 2-time impeached ex-president to be our next president of the United States of America. And Donald Trump won the 2024 election. While votes are still being counted in most states, most of the margins are way too large for anyone to catch up. So he will be the next president of the United States of America. As of right now, he's sitting at 295 electoral votes. America saw a huge shift to the right. There was 170 days that Vice President Harris had to run this campaign after President Joe Biden stepped down. And across the board, we saw trends to the right. It hurts. It's disappointing. It's not shocking, though. This country where you saw millionaires and billionaires pour money into the Trump campaign to have a felon be the president of the United States of America, most of those CEOs have a no hire policy for felons at their own companies. You saw including Elon Musk, who may be our new Secretary of Commerce.
Oh Jesus, help me, Lord.
Or Treasury, either one. RFK Jr. may be our new Health Secretary.
That's scary.
You saw fear tactics used. You saw the misinformation around the tax codes of why everyone's paying more in taxes. And this is why I try to bring information to people. And I was really annoyed with a conversation I had the day after the election with a young man in a barbershop who said, oh, finally, Trump's going to cut our taxes again. And I explained to him to the point where I pulled up on my phone the actual bill that had Trump's signature on it was the 2017 Trump tax cuts and when it is set to expire, which means we're currently operating under the 2017 tax credits because it does not expire until May of 2025. So you paying more taxes right now was because of that bill in 2017. But again, people did not want to do their own research.
But isn't that the responsibility of the Democrats to share that? That what you just shared was very clear. Us not being able to articulate could be one of the issues too. Our
messaging is horrible. We want to talk big picture, high level. Sometimes you have to break it down to the simplest terms. This passed, so this is how it affects you. This didn't pass, so this is how it affects you. You got out early and you talked about, President Biden talked about, oh, I'm canceling student loan debt. People remember what you say first. So now, 2 years later, my student loans aren't canceled. What do I remember? You said you was going to cancel it. You didn't do what you were going to do. Not knowing that he did cancel them. And then the Republicans filed in court. It went all the way to the Supreme Court, a Supreme Court that was picked by this former president, now our next president, who's a felon himself, who allowed the Supreme Court, the 3 that he picked are corrupt, and then he had a few that was already corrupt on there, including the one that may look like us but don't act like us, and Clarence Thomas, who was bought and sold to these same billionaires who donated to Trump's campaign. They allowed this policy that would have helped the average person who has student loans to be stricken down, to say it's unconstitutional. How? Well, in America, we have loan forgiveness all the time. Let's talk about the PPP loans that you got during COVID-19. Let's talk about the millions and millions and millions of dollars that individuals, including Republican members of Congress, were able to get forgiven, which means did not have to pay back. But yet the average college student who worked hard, did what they were supposed to, got their degree, maybe has close to $60,000 in student loans, your debt couldn't be forgiven. But a congressman from Florida who's already one of the more wealthiest members of Congress could get over $5 million forgiven without repaying a single cent. And the person who has a $60,000 in student loan, they've been paying down on that, but they can never really catch up because in America and how the student loans are set up, they pick the interest rate as so high that even if you pay a $5,000 down payment, guess what? That's only towards the interest. You're not even touching the $60,000 you actually borrowed to pay for your schooling.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, it's able to be forgiven for the rich and the wealthy. Right now, if you're a teacher and you need to buy things for your classroom, you can't write that off anymore. But if I own a yacht or a private jet, I can write off not only owning that, but I can write off the fuel I have to buy for that. Why is that?
Because it's for the rich.
So again, I think this election showed that Trump is a very good communicator. He's, and I've said this many a times, he's masterclass when it comes to controlling the media and controlling the narrative about him. But then also he had his friends like Jeff Bezos, who stepped in and said, oh, Washington Post, we're not going to make an endorsement. And then, of course, he makes his own personal endorsement of Donald Trump after the Washington Post was going to endorse Harris.
Right.
So again, this is what we're living with, and where we're going to be at for the next 4 years. It's under a Trump administration, and it doesn't just stop there. They were able to win the Senate.
And before you go to the Senate, you can start preparing for it. But, you know, let me just say that right now we're faced with a stress level. As a pastor, I got on I have a national prayer call that happens every Sunday and every Wednesday. This Wednesday at the 5 a.m. hour, I got on, and I've not had that. We had over 300 people on that call. And I tried, because I felt the heaviness, okay? I too was heavy. And I felt the heaviness, and I had to share with them, one, God has a purpose and a plan in life. Now, I know this is more religious or spiritual than maybe for this show, but I want to encourage those of you who are watching, because I don't want to take for granted the mental health and the mental strain that this election put on people. People were believing better days are coming. Her message of hope was real. Just to be railroaded by the billionaires who were paying people to get out there and vote, those low propensity voters, they did a very good job with making sure, while it wasn't, the count may not have been as high as some other elections, they strategically did what they did after a people was feeling that hope was on the way. It is hard. And I want to make sure for those of you who are watching us that you don't give up hope. We don't know what is going to happen tomorrow. What we do know is that if you hold on, something better can happen. And what I'm hoping for is that the Lord will have his way. He's not caught by surprise. He's not caught by surprise. We don't know. I don't want to say something that's in my spirit to say, but we don't know. Just keep your eyes open, keep your head up, and keep your faith strong, and let's just see what God does. He took care of you before, he'll take care of you again. I'm sorry, Coby, the pastor part of me came out.
No. I think that's important because we are in a very scary time. Yeah. We saw what happened last time Trump had a trifecta. We got the tax cuts. They stole multiple Supreme Court justices' seats. He has the opportunity to appoint anywhere from 2 to 3 additional Supreme Court justices' seats now. And single-handedly be the most impactful president when it comes to our SCOTUS Supreme Court ever, right? So I want to break down the Senate as well, too. So the Senate was a 50-50 split for the last 4 years because of Vice President Harris being the presiding officer of the Senate. It always leaned towards the Democrat. On election night, we knew at least one seat was definitely already signed, sealed, and delivered for the Republicans, and that was the seat of retiring Senator Joe Manchin. And I just want to talk about Jim Justice. Having ties to West Virginia and knowing that state a little better than other states, Jim Justice is a coal miner CEO who ended up going on to be a 2-term governor who's now term limit, ran for U.S. Senate. He is a anti-worker, anti-protection person. Hundreds have died in his coal mines. He's had coal mines that have been, while people were trapped in there, instead of saving them, he just shut it down and sealed it up. Instead of putting extra money in to save those lives of those workers who were making him millions of dollars. So again, that's what we got in West Virginia to be the next senator from there. Next, Bernie Moreno is a Porsche car dealership owner, millionaire. He runs the largest luxury car dealership in Ohio. Beat Sharon Brown, who has been a fighter for the working class and protection of union members, is lost his seat to Bernie Moreno in Ohio. And that's my favorite, one of my favorite senators, lost election, and that's John Tester. He was a 7-fingered senator who was a dirt farmer from Montana, who was not big on the big and flashy, but just getting to work and working hard for the average people. He was probably one of the most outspoken senators in protecting the rights of Native Americans, which a lot of individuals in Montana are Native American. Lost to Marine Tim Sheehy. Sorry if I butchered that. So we lost 3 seats in the Senate. We have 3 others that are still up in the air right now in Nevada.
Incumbents?
3 incumbents. Oh, wow. 3 seats flipped with 2 incumbents losing so far. Right now, Democrat incumbent Jackie Rosen is in the lead by only 13,000 votes in Nevada, with 90% of the vote. And Nevada takes their time in counting. That will probably be the last race called. I want to talk about Nevada real quick. Nevada did go red on the federal level. Nevada is still feeling the impacts of 2020 pandemic. They still sit at about 30% unemployment. The casino strip out there, Las Vegas, has never recovered from 2020. Why? Because Trump did not want to give them the money they needed to recover, because they have always excluded him out there as a business owner. But then also it was a Democratic state then, like he did with a lot of Democratic states. But yet he used that to blame the Democrats, and now he's back in and they voted for him. So sometimes you vote against your best interest. That's just Coby talking right now. In Arizona, my friend and someone who I've worked with quite often, Congressman Ruben Gallego, is in the lead by a little over 750,000 votes. He has about 50% of the vote. To Carrie Lake's 48%, and then a Green Party candidate has 2%. But he is in the lead right now. He is running to replace Kristen Sinema, who was another senator who wouldn't change the filibuster to get progress in this nation. So again, he is currently in the lead. They're at only 69% of the vote counted right now. So it's still a very long way to go in that race. And then the closest to being called right now, unfortunately, Bob Casey is down by 30,000 votes in Pennsylvania. Dave McCormick, who actually, his primary residency is in Connecticut, who even stated that if he does win, he will move full-time to PA, which I doubt. He'll probably just move to DC. He's using his parents' address right now to run in Pennsylvania, but he is in the lead by 30,000 votes in a very tightly contested race in PA. They are still counting.
What percentage are they, do you know?
McCormick's at 48.9, and Casey's at 48.5.
Yeah. And so how many percentage of the vote is counted? Do you know?
95%. So it's very close, but they're counting the mail-in ballots right now. What most people thought was going to be competitive, the U.S. Senate race in Texas was not. Ted Cruz won by 9%. In Wisconsin and in Michigan, 2 states that flipped and went for Donald Trump. The Democratic incumbent in Wisconsin, Tammy Baldwin, was able to win 49.4% to 48.5%. And in Michigan, retiring Senator Debbie Stabinov's seat was held by the Democrats, with Congresswoman Elise Stoken winning with 48.6% to former Congressman Mike Rogers, 48.3%.
Interesting, but we didn't win the state. That's interesting. That is very interesting.
And then lastly, I just want to talk about the House race. There are still 40 races that have not been called as it sits as of right now. Democrats have won 190 seats. Republicans have won about 250. Most of
Not 250.
205.
Okay.
Sorry. But we are at 40 uncalled races right now. I'm going to predict that the House is also going to go red, and they'll probably gain anywhere to, I would say, probably gain about 5 seats from what they had before. So it still would be very close, but still they will.
He's gonna have free check.
Yes,
he's gonna have free reign to do what he wants to do, how he wants to do it, wherever he wants to do it at. That's unbelievable. You know, Coby, we hope that we can come out of the stupor that we're in and this hurt that we're in, but the Democrats have to come together.
Yes.
And I will say this to those of you, we're in a Democratic state, and I want to say this for those who are far right. I mean, no, in the Democrats, was it left or right?
Far left.
Far left. I joke a lot about, you know, Coby, you're liberal and I'm more conservative, but let's just be straight. Some of the things I've been hearing and reading, especially in some of the respected papers, we have to wake up. Your issue is your issue. But what the Republicans did is what Coby was trying to do right here in Delaware, and that is to make sure those school boards and we elected the right people in the state houses to ensure that the politics will go in the right direction. We get so caught up in our issue, our one issue, that we won't vote for anybody else's issues. We won't compromise. We won't talk. We demonize each other. At some point, look at what has occurred. We have to come together. We have to come together, and we have to recognize that everybody's not going to get everything they want, but that there has to be an agenda for the Democratic Party so that when we do what we do, we'll be better.
So I would just say on this, the further left voted. They voted overwhelmingly for a Democrat.
Yeah.
And it was the middle of the road people who flipped. It was,
but see, it was like I'm the middle of the road people, okay? And let's have this real quick conversation. Yeah. I'm the middle of the road person, but I get ticked off with the left because my way or no way, and that's a problem for me.
But are you truly middle of the road, right? You have compassion, you have a heart.
I do.
So when people talk about, because we had this conversation, well, not we, but I had this conversation with a middle of the road voter who said, well, I think the Democrats are too focused on affordable housing. Why can't you just build regular housing and make people work harder?
Okay.
It's things like that. And look, every state is different, right? So middle of the road in Delaware is a lot different than middle of the road in like Florida. But it's things like that that make me sit back and say, but you currently live in a house that was considered affordable when you first got it, thanks to Democrats in that fight. But now you've built equity in that house. Now you can go out and sell that house for a lot more than what you got it for. That's great, but that's not what's happening, right? We have lost our starter housing in America, period. And that's why we're in such an issue right now. Those, first-time homeowner, then you go on to buy a bigger one when you get a family, people are staying in those first-time homeowners, right? So now that you're staying in there, where else do you have to go? Well, now, because people weren't buying the other houses, people stayed in those bigger houses longer. And now those people are dying off. When those people are dying off, their families are selling them. When they sell them for what they're worth. And a first-time homeowner cannot afford what that house is for, right? So it's created this cycle. So unless we build more first-time opportunity housing, right, you're not going to see the market change in a positive way that we need. And that's what I think people have to understand. when someone could have gone to college, right, and paid their whole college for $10,000, well, it costs $120,000 now.
Right, and that was back in the days. I understand that. So what do you do, Coby? Because I've watched you not compromise. I've watched you be able to sit and talk with a person who says, okay, we need some regular housing. And then you may say, okay, we need affordable housing. All right, does that mean I now need to demonize you?
No.
And that's the issue.
Yes.
And that's where I'm at. And here in this city, we've watched that carefully, where there are too many people demonizing others because they are not doing exactly what they want for their community. Yes, we need affordable housing, and I'm never going to deny that. Yes, we need to deal with the crime that's going on in our city. And no, we will not have police officers beating, Billy clubbing our young people and our people. No, we will not permit that. However, we have to be able to sit down at the table and negotiate and talk about things. I think so. Sometimes some people who are so far to the left, they don't have enough sense to do anything beyond their one issue, and that's where my problem is. I am not concerned. I mean, I joke about you being a liberal, but you are more. We all are liberals, okay? Let's just be straight. But there's a liberal where a tunnel mind where I'm just about this, and you know, if your only issue is abortion, then how do you get your issue heard and supported if you can't support nothing else that's going on with our party? So I just really, I'm angered in that. And that's what I think a lot of this came from. And the Republicans came together. Everybody knows Trump is crazy. Everybody knows that he's loony. But you know what? They start supporting him because of many reasons.
No, he definitely is off his rockers. But again, I think in the movement, right, and I'll talk about the progressive movement, right? You have to educate people on that this is bigger than just one issue, right? So if you care about reproductive rights, if you care about religious rights or whatsoever, right? There should be no Muslim bans. I don't believe in a Muslim ban, right? I also don't believe in mass deportation, right?
Okay.
At the end of the day, you saw down in Florida, they put all these laws in, and what happened down there? The Americans didn't go get these jobs. They're not out there building the houses. They're not out there farming the farms right now. Farmers are losing money right now because their product cannot be grown. So we should be more welcoming to immigrants and more welcoming to a growing workforce here in America. But yet, in Trump's mind, these are all the people taking our jobs. I hate that narrative. Oh, immigrants take our jobs. If someone can come over here undocumented with no money in their pocket and take the job that you were doing, please show me where.
Well, that's their way of demonizing and making sure that they put fear into people. We only got a couple more minutes left, so we might as well go ahead and continue on, Coby, and still taking a commercial break. I want to come to the local. We didn't get a chance to really talk about that, and we see now. For those, maybe somebody don't know, who won the governor's race?
Yes, Matt Meyer won the governor race overwhelmingly. He won with 56.7%.
Okay, did the Republicans do better this cycle? I need to know those questions.
They didn't do better. It's about on par
what they do
to last time.
Okay,
yeah.
So what happened with were there any surprises in the Senate or the House? For the state level.
So there was one flip in the state house in RD21, which their current representative was running for governor, Mike Ramone. In that seat, Mike Ramone's endorsed candidate did not win. Dr. Frank Burns, let me get it right, who's a chemist, he won that seat with 57.88%, overperforming almost every Democrat in that district, including our top of the ticket, Harris, LBR, or Lisa Blunt Rochester, Sarah McBride, and Matt.
Wow, he put his stuff out there.
He did. He worked hard.
Now, in my district, we have a new state representative. How well did she do? Do you have that?
She got 100% because there was no Republican running against her.
I wanted to say that, my soror sister. I wanted to say that. But
her name, and this is why I've been very hesitant with saying the vice president's name, because I talked to Kamala Smith so much. Kamala. I get them confused, but Kamala Smith, who works for Christiana Care, has officially been elected state rep for the 15th district, which is Bear.
Yeah, we have more African Americans down there coming into power down there now. So I hope they all work together. Is there now? Who won the county?
Monique Johns won county council president.
Okay.
And Marcus was unopposed for county exec.
Now the county president how well did she do?
For county council president, she won with 62.52% of the vote, which is about 164,000 votes.
Okay, excellent. Now let's go down a little bit further to there was no surprises in the county councils, were there?
No surprises in the county council. The only one who had a race was John Cartier, who won with 69.4% of the vote. And that was District 8, which is like Claymont, Bellefonte, Governor Prince area.
Now we come to the great city of Wilmington, Delaware.
So John Carney for mayor, Dwayne Sims for city treasurer, Trippy Congo for council president, myself for 1st District City Council, Shanae Darby for 2nd District, Michelle Harley for 4th District, Christian Wilhauler for 5th District, Yolanda McCoy for 6th District, Chris Johnson for 7th District, Nathan Fields for 8th District. None of us had Republican opponents. All of us won with 100% of the vote. Of the district people, Nathan Fields got the most votes from his district. And I just want to point this out. I got the 2nd most votes of any district person. I just want to point that out.
Well, those are high voting districts.
I just want to point those out there.
And if nobody's running, that's what you're going to but I say that only for Nathan Fields because I don't want him to think that he can just do what he wants to do now.
Trippy received 23,000 votes. John Carney received 24,000 votes. And Dwayne received 23,000 votes as well too. But in council, I forgot 3rd District. So 3rd District, there was a write-in candidate, but Xanthia Oliver won with 99% of the vote. For city council at large, which was the only main contested race, you had 3 Democrats and 2 Republicans. The top 4 vote getters get in. So in this order, first time general election ballot candidate Alexander Hackett.
Now, let's stop there for just a second. We ain't got no more time. He was at the top?
He was at the top.
Most votes?
Most votes.
Man, no wonder you didn't return my phone call and come back on the show because you're now important. Okay. I like that.
He got 28.94% of the vote. Next is also first-time general election candidate ballot. Councilwoman, she was appointed to Loretta Walsh's seat. Councilwoman Letitia Tish Bracey got the next most with 28.72% of the vote.
Can I stop there for a second?
Go ahead.
Those 2 candidates were endorsed by this I was going to say Coffee with Curry because they were with Coffee with Curry as well, but by the source. I love it. Go ahead.
And then 3rd place was 3-term incumbent Maria Cabrera with 27.53% of the vote.
And I'm going to say to her, just because we are just having a conversation, you need to recognize you're an incumbent. You've been there for a while. You came number 3. Please be mindful. We're watching. You cannot be in the pot. I'm not accusing you of anything. We're going to start afresh. You are part of the Latino community. You really need to represent the people. And I'm going to leave it there because when we start going at people and starting this next cycle, we want to make sure people understand, we were kind this last one. Now we got a team we can work with.
Absolutely.
You can go ahead.
And then for the 2 Republicans, Sean Daugherty had 5.37% and James Spadola finished off the top 4 with 9.43%. Okay. So that was actually closer than I thought it was going to be. Yeah. But again, they're getting tired
of some of these incumbents. Mm-hmm. They're getting tired of some of these incumbents, even on both sides of the aisle. And I think I am too. But I'm glad to hear the newest face to city council was top. And then right after that was one who was appointed, showing that now she's no longer at nobody's appointment. Right. She's been elected by the people. Correct. And elected in full force. This is just awesome. While there has not been a lot of good news on the national, we believe that we can move to a better day. Yes. Coby, I really wish we had more time because we didn't even deal with some of the things that we wanted to talk about today with the violence that's going on in the city, with the election and the depression that people are experiencing. Just know that you're prayed for. Just know that everything is going to work out in your favor. Hold on. That's my word to you. Hold on. We've been here before, and especially African Americans and Latinos, we've experienced devastations, as well as my European brothers and sisters. We have experienced devastation after devastation, but in America, we are strong people. We get through it. We are shocked. We bounce back sometime, but we bounce forward stronger. So please do not give up. Hold on. Let's see what's going to happen next. Because a person has been elected, you don't know what's going to happen. Hold on, continue to do what you're doing, and I guarantee you things are going to get better. Coby, is there anything else you have for us today?
That's all I have today.
Well, if that's all you have, that's all I have, so I'm going to call it a night today. Until the next time, God bless you real good.
Take care, y'all.
You've been watching The Source with host Dr. C.T. Curry and co-host Coby Owens. Tune in every Sunday at 5 p.m. Thanks for watching. And don't forget to subscribe for the latest episodes.